Hi everyone, my name is Ems Lord and I'm delighted to join you for this Lumen session exploring enriched resources and collaborative maths activities for secondary students. So before I get launched into looking at the actual resources, I thought it'd be helpful to give you a little bit of background about Enrich and why we work the way we do. So Enrich was founded around 20 years ago and we're a collaboration between the faculties of mathematics and education at the University of Cambridge. We have the website, which you probably know very well, but I will give you a tour of it and hopefully share some useful insights so you'll know it even better by the end of the session. But we also offer professional development for teachers, webinars such as today's event, and many other activities and mathematical links. So if you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, at the end of this session, please do so. So Enrich, we focus on rich mathematics, and what really excites us are activities that nurture young mathematicians. So what I'd like to do is stop talking now to the screen and start looking at the Enrich website. So let me bring that up, and you should now see the Enrich homepage. Now, if I go in the search box here and type in a word that is at the tip of many maths teachers' lips, mastery, this is Enrich's response to the mastery debate and development of mastery in many of our schools, and where we think its role lies in nurturing young mathematicians. Now, if I scroll down, we'll reach something that's very special to the Enrich team, and it's this. We call it the rote model, and we believe this encapsulates what it takes to become a young mathematician. So if we think about the curriculum, we've got conceptual understanding and procedural fluency as two of the key aims of the current curriculum. And they're very important too. We want children to be able to understand what they're doing and to do so fluently. They're key aims. But surely we want so much more than that when we think of what we want to share, the excitement, the moments of awe and wonder, that we want to enthuse children to become mathematicians, to become excited about the subject. So there's other areas that matter too, and this is why it's a rote model, because these 5 areas intertwine and they're essential to make the rope strong to nurture that young mathematician. So what else have we got on here? Adaptive reasoning. Now, if you know Enrich, you'll know that we welcome student solutions to our life problems. Adaptive reasoning is a really great way to get the children to apply their mathematics and use their understanding to convince others. So adaptive reasoning is in the DNA of Enrich. So it's part of the rote model. This is part of the reason why it's so important to us. But also important is strategic competence. And when I first came across strategic competence, I thought it was just talking about problem solving. And there's a lot of problem solving skills to teach, finding all possibilities, working systematically. But it's so much more than that. And when we bear in mind that Ofsted are saying they do not see enough problem solving in schools, going beyond can seem scary. What's the next stage once they can solve problems? Well, it's about posing problems, about being creative and being curious. If they have solved a problem, where could they go next? Can they write a problem for someone else? And this is so exciting at Enrich when we not only get solutions to our life problems, but students start sending in their own problems based on the original that we set. So strategic competence is incredibly important. What else is important? Well, here we go, productive disposition. Not just doing the maths, but wanting to do the maths, being enthusiastic about doing the maths, understanding why people make maths the main focus of an academic career, why they do it at A level, why they look for jobs involving mathematics. So even if they don't become a mathematician, perhaps they understand why some of us do, and that they understand better those moments of awe and wonder, which make mathematics such a fantastic subject to study. So that's our rote model. And when you think about enriched resources, it can be really useful to come back to this and reflect on which areas you're focusing on each time. I'm hoping it touches on all 5, whatever we do, but perhaps a different weighting for different activities. And it is something that seems very exciting to you. Well, because we've been so excited about it at Enrich, we've also come up with a student-friendly version that you can download. And if you can't find it on the site, don't worry. Just email me and I'll let you have the details. So If you'd like to know more about the rope model, please get in touch, or alternatively, go on our events page, which you can click up here on the top bar, and at the events page there's a link to our recent webinars when we looked at the student-friendly model of the rope model, and we actually went through it doing different activities. So Enrich is a collaborative project. It's a university-based project. We're research informed. And some of the work that we've been doing recently has been looking at what we call habits of mind. So again, it's about nurturing young mathematicians, encouraging them to be resilient, encouraging them to have persistence, encouraging them to ask questions. But for the purpose of today, the area I'd like to focus on is encouraging them to be collaborative, to work with one another. So let's have a look at some of our collaborative activities. And I'm bearing in mind here, when I choose the ones we're going to look at, is it would be helpful to think about what's coming up in this school year. And we're going to look first at Olympic records. And as you can see here, it's a secondary activity, 1 star. 1 star, that was something I didn't understand very much when I was teaching. So I'll share some information about that in a moment so you know what it is when you see a 1 star activity. And here, secondary curriculum linked. So on the home page, you can access a free curriculum map with the objectives in that you're being asked to teach and links to Enrich activities that are the most relevant. So that's useful to know. So this is curriculum linked. Olympic records. This was originally devised as part of our support for London 2012, but with Tokyo coming up, well, we very much hope that Tokyo is coming up in 2021. Hopefully this will be one of a suite of activities that you might want to access with your students that encourages and celebrates collaborative learning. So I mentioned the 1 star. The 1 star is a really good indicator for teachers about the type of activity it is. 1 star, low threshold, high ceiling. And this approach, low threshold, accessible for everybody, was inspired by Seymour Papé's work on computer programming and Logo. The idea that you should be able to get started quickly, engage with the maths, and as you work through it, then you start to draw on other areas of mathematics, you go much deeper. But that importance of having something that you know you can run with a class. So look out for these 1 star problems. Okay, enough talking, let's do some maths. Olympic records. Aha, here we go. Right, we have a lot of graphs. Let's have a look. Let's look at graph 1. Now, I'll give you a clue here. Graph 1 is a track and field event. But as you'll see, although there's the years here, and these would have been the winning times, distances, scores, we don't know what this is going up here. I wonder what 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 could mean. Now, if I was working with a class of students, I would probably put this graph 1 on each table and give them a little time to have a think about it and ask that lovely question, what do you notice? I wonder what you notice about it. Perhaps it's this descending trend. Not quite a straight line though, is it? That bit there is interesting. Perhaps you've noticed there's a gap in the data here. And there's another gap in the data here. What's going on there? I wonder what years they were. It's an interesting question for our secondary students. And I wonder which track and field activity it was. Well, it's coming down, it's below 10. I wonder, sprinting, Usain Bolt, 9.8 something, 9.9 something. Perhaps this is sprinting. Perhaps this is the 100 meters. Now, what I'm not doing there is I'm not thinking about gender. I don't know what the women's 100 meters record is. I could really do with somebody who knows about these things. And perhaps this is a point where having more than one person in the group would be really helpful. I don't know that much about women's sprinting records. If we had a group of people around a table and perhaps somebody knew about that, they'd be able to help me out a little bit. So I'm thinking it's sprinting. I'm not sure if it's men's or women's sprinting, but that trend was very helpful. What's going on there? Well, maybe it's nothing particularly mathematical, but the turn of the century, I'm wondering if that's got to do with the development of the shoes. Maybe it's starting blocks. Maybe it's when they introduced a new surface in the stadium so they could run better on it with spikes. This is a graph that's raising an awful lot of questions, and I bet if we tried this in the classroom there would be even more. Let's have a look at one of the others and maybe do a comparison. So how about this one? Trend's the opposite direction, isn't it? So what have we got here? Still got the year groups down here. So we've got the years there. Oh, this is different. 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, increasing. Again, not a straight line. There are gaps here. Got data gaps here. Okay, this seems steady. Something going on here. Perhaps 2 meters. I couldn't do it myself, but I'm thinking maybe jumping. Again, I wouldn't know if it was ladies or men's. I do know that there was something called a Fosbury flop. I wonder if that was about this period here. Now that was a man who introduced it, but I'm sure it's in the women's events as well, but perhaps that would explain what's going on there. I'm thinking perhaps high jumps. I think we've had a sprint and a high jump, but I'm not sure on the gender. I want to look at one more. There's 10 of these altogether. Oh, wow, look at this one. There's all sorts going on here. So year groups, here we go, different years of the Olympics here. This is totally different. It's going up in multiples of 10. We've got 50 here, 95 here. I'm thinking increasing trend. Maybe it's another field event. Could be heights, but 90 meters. Throwing. Maybe it's distances. Javelin. Why would a javelin graph go like this? And then it's in 3 parts, isn't it? What's going on? The development of the javelin, the weight of javelin. I recall something about that being debated and then being changed. Wonder why they had to change the weight of the javelin. Were they getting too good and throwing them too far? And they're getting up to these points. And they're getting up to 95. I wonder how long the track is. Well, the running track's 100 meters, isn't it? If you're throwing a javelin 95 meters, I might be a very worried sprinter. Oh, they came down again here. Maybe that was the point they changed things. Okay. Well, we've only looked at 3 of them there. And at this point, you may want to stop this video and log on to Enrich and look at the others. If you do that, if you want to look at them, just beware there's going to be a spoiler next, okay? What I'm going to do is look at the other items on here. What's going on here? Because when I was teaching full time, I'd quite often go on PD events and somebody would share an activity, not this particular one, but an Enrich activity. It might be a photocopy, something laminated. I'd take it away and try it with my class. Of course I would. It looked great. But what I did intend to do was go and look at the Enrich website. And the things that help with the collaboration are really here. First thing is the teacher's resources. I wish I'd known about these because they always start off with talking about why do the problem, talks about the mathematics behind it, and then an approach. It turns out that the team have already produced PDFs with the graphs, they've produced a PowerPoint and an outline of a lesson plan that I could adapt to my own class. They've also put on some support activities. There's a card sort activity I could use with a group and some extension activities. So that's already done for me. So that would have saved me a lot of time. Let's look at solution. When I was teaching, okay, I'll admit this, when I was teaching, I thought there were solutions put on by the Enrich team. Let's have a look. Here's a spoiler, by the way. So the graphs, number 1, 100 meters, yes. Men's 100 meters. I still don't know what the ladies is. Number 3, women's 100 1,500 metres. We've got men's high jump, number 4. I think we looked at the high jump, either that or the javelin, so we looked at those. Women's 100 metres, it's graph 10. That will be interesting to compare. These solutions are sent in by children, and what we look for is not just the answer. We want to know their reasoning, how they got to their answer. That's what's really important. So we're looking for this adaptive reasoning. So what have they got on here? Well, the improvement in results are talking about growing knowledge of the human body. Well done, Chatham Grammar School, for that answer. Looking at the graphs, we can tell they're decreasing his track, increasing his field. Thank you, Garden International. The running events, the person with the quickest, i.e. the smallest time wins. They're explaining why they've looked at those trends. Men's 100 metres, we see the records start from the first games, which means it can't have been women, as they weren't being treated equal to men and wouldn't have participated. Thank you, All Saints School. So it wouldn't have been the ladies' events because they weren't running them in the early 1900s. Many, many more ideas going on here, showing the value of having students enjoy these activities in groups because it's a cross-curricular activity. And there may be students, I know it's hard to accept, there may be students in our maths classes where doing maths is not the reason they got up in the morning, or at least they don't realise that. They're looking forward to their sports events later in the day, their football practice, their athletics practice. If they're working in groups and something like this comes up, a student who may have been disengaged, who didn't see the maths lesson as something for them, suddenly they're the expert in the class. They understand these sports and they're invaluable for helping unpick those trends and sharing their knowledge. And of course, afterwards, they could go away and write their own activities. So when we've been looking at collaborative learning, what we've been very much doing is exploring activities that students can do together. Now let's go to the secondary homepage. And there's the curriculum page. So if you're following objectives and you want to enrich resources, that's the first place to go. If you're thinking about habits of mind and being collaborative, then I'd also suggest going here, habits of mind. So when we go here, we've organised our resources into these habits. Be curious, ask questions. Be resilient, don't give up. And be collaborative. And under be collaborative, we've organised the resources by strand: number, algebra, geometry and stats. So if I just click on number, here we go. Lots of collaborative activities, including an Olympic one. Olympic measures. It's a card sort activity, and hopefully your classes will enjoy that too. Factors and multiple game. Fantastic collaborative activity. Now, before I go any further, it might be useful just to mention some of the research that UCL have been doing around collaborative learning, because what they've suggested is when we plan the lessons, we really need to think about individual responsibility. So when they're playing games, doing activity like Olympic records, individual responsibility, who's feeding back? What is the expectation? And also the time to reflect. How well did they work in a team? What did they contribute? What did they do well? What do they need to do better next time? So those aspects are really important too. Let's have a look at this factors and multiples game. So it's one of our collaborative activities and it's 1 star. That's good. So that means we should all be able to get started on it. You can play pencil and paper, but we've got an interactivity, so let's use it. Now, the idea with factors and multiples is to make the longest chain we possibly can. And when we've chosen a number, the next one needs to be a factor or multiple of it. But the best way to know this game is to give it a go. So let me choose a starting number, 24. So I've clicked on it and it's moved it over to my board. So my next number needs to be a factor or multiple of 24. And you can see why I've chosen 24. There's lots of possible answers. If I was in a room with students, I'll be asking them for their ideas. In fact, I'll probably start off with small groups, let them explore it, and then share their ideas to take it further. But for now, let's try 6. Yeah. So 6 is a factor of 24, and I've got 2 numbers there. Wonder what could go next? 6. How about 60? What would happen if I click on 60? It grows again. And maybe now I could do 30. Suppose I did a mistake. I put the wrong number in. What's going to happen there if one of my students gets it wrong? What shall I put in? Let's put 9. Ah, that's interesting. It's come up as blue. So that's telling me perhaps I shouldn't have put that in. So I can take that one away. I've got brackets around my chain. At the moment, I've got 4 numbers in my chain. Now, what I could do, if I'm looking for the class to build the longest possible chain, I could say to them, here's the beginning. Can you make that longer? What advice would you have for somebody to extend it? And not just going this way, past 30. They could try numbers before 24. They can also insert numbers here. So with this particular activity, there are a lot of ways that children can collaborate and aim for something quite exciting in the longest possible chain. I've done this activity in the lecture theatre at Cambridge. And when you have a lecture theatre full of teenagers, all sharing their ideas, all of a sudden collaborative mathematics comes to life, because we know we don't do real life mathematics by ourselves. If they visit a maths faculty, they will find teams of mathematicians working together, not necessarily just in that faculty, but across faculties, both here in the UK and overseas. Maths is collaborative, and it's a fantastic opportunity to celebrate that. What else is there to support with this game? Well, there are the teacher resources, of course. So we have the teacher notes as before, the mathematics that we're exploring, some lesson ideas, questions and support. And of course, we've got some solutions from students. Oh my gosh, look at that. Fantastic sequence of numbers. There's one to try and beat with your classes. Okay, again, spoilers, you may not want to use them, but they're there just in case. So we've got factors and multiples. We've looked at the habits of mind collection, and we've also looked at the Olympic resources for using cross-curricular activities to encourage the children to work collaboratively. But it's not just about working in the classroom. We've also done a project about working together on mathematics at home. And this Solving Together project was funded by Nesta and Tata. And what they were looking for was encouraging more mathematics in the home. What we did at Enrich is we took a selection of interactivities, we recorded parental videos to accompany those activities, and with the interactives, the children could go on and try them at home with family members. We tracked how often they went on, we tracked for how long they went on, and how often they kept going back to them. And we found with these activities, the children didn't just go on the week they were set 1 per week in the autumn term. We found they kept going back on them for extended periods of time. And when the project finished in early December, we found they kept going back to them. So we kept the tracker running later through December. They were going on these activities in the Christmas holidays. So this was really exciting. These were Year 7 children in their own time exploring mathematics. So let's see, what were the activities that were getting them so excited? How about, let's look at Got It. Now, you may have seen Got It before. You can play it pencil and paper. This particular one is set up so that they can play an opponent. Now, because I'm just modelling it here on a video, I'm going to play the computer, so I've got someone to play. But otherwise, they automatically set up to play an opponent, such as an older brother or sister, auntie, uncle, grandparent. I've got to get to the number 23, okay? Taking it in turns, adding 1, 2, 3 or 4. Well, I'm going first, so I'm going to put 4 down. Now it's the computer's turn. It's done 4 as well. I feel a little bit better now. Computer agreed with me. Target's 23, try another 4. Oh, that's interesting. Computer didn't go 4 at that time. Perhaps a little bit more to this than I first thought. Let's think about another number. What do I need to add? I'll go for 3. Okay, so now on 18. So these are my choices. I'm wondering if you've noticed what I've just noticed there. I'm going to put 2 in. Yes, okay, the computer's one. It's not very subtle about it, is it? Okay, so I didn't win that time, but I do want to win another time. I'd want to go back and try this again, thinking about the numbers I put in. And I think there's one or two numbers in there that could be very important steps along, that once I get to those points, then the game's decided. So I need to do some thinking about that. Once I've got it sorted, I'm going to be able to have another go and hopefully beat the computer. But then I could also have another look at the settings tab, because here I can actually change the target number. So if I've got a strategy, I can try and apply it. So I can do that problem posing as well as problem solving on that rote model. I can also alter the numbers that we add on. So I can create a whole new game. Now, when students were trying this at home as part of their homework, what we found is there was a significant increase in the amount of engagement that was happening with parents compared to normally when the children would go off and maybe do homework in their bedroom, dining room table. Here they were doing it with their families. We even got them to draw them doing their homework, and we could compare pictures of them sat before the project on their beds doing their homework by themselves, afterwards sat on the settee with family, with friends, doing maths together. So it's a lovely project solving together. And if you go on here, you can access the resources we set, interactivities, there's guidance for parents, guidance for teachers, videos for parents, where they can actually see the activities modelled, the types of questions to ask, and there's also written notes as well if they'd rather access them that way. So solving together, a lovely, lovely project to work on, and hopefully a really great way to encourage your students to collaborate. And especially some of these, like Got It, they're number problems. And one thing that we're finding with children in primary schools is that when we talk about collaborating, they tend to be willing to collaborate on certain aspects of maths, statistics, collecting data using a clipboard. They love doing that, favourite flavour crisps. But if we ask them to collaborate on number work, then some of them find that very difficult. They feel that they're cheating. When we try to explain that at universities, we often do number work and investigations with prime numbers maybe, but we do it as a team. They're very, very surprised at that. So encouraging the children to do as much collaborative learning as possible is a really, really great way forwards. Now, as well as having a look at these particular activities for collaborating, what I'd also like to do is go back to the secondary teacher homepage and have a look at our live problems, because here we have tough nuts. Tough nuts are live problems that have yet to have a solution. And if you would like your students to collaborate by sharing their resources, sharing their ideas with other students, do have a look at our tough nuts. If I go back, I can go to previous features. And here we have all the activities and features that we put up every half term, going back quite a long way. So each half term, we've put up a set of activities. And let's look at the resilience ones, because like collaboration, they're habits of mind. So quite often there's an article for teachers with some background about the project, but then we have live activities. And with these live activities, when they're live with the features live, your students can send in their solutions. So that means they're doing what John Mason talks about with the levels of conjecturing. First, they had to convince themselves they got the answer right. They did that in class. Then maybe convince a friend or you as their teacher. That's the second level of convincing. But here, when they look at live problems, whether it's a tough nut or what's on the current feature, here they are looking at convincing others, people they've never met. And we welcome their solutions to our live problems. And then what we do every half term is we publish a selection. So you as secondary teachers, if you click on our latest feature, you'll be able to access the live problems, and you can may want to set them once a week for homework. You may want to investigate them over a long day in school, whichever way works best. But then your students can send in their solutions, or maybe a class solution. They can download a certificate when they've done so. And then what we'll do at the end of each half term, we go through all their different answers. We get answers from all over the world. It's a fantastic time. We then curate a selection of them, maybe showcasing interesting approaches. Maybe they've come up with a new version of the problem to share. and we publish those on Enrich, and when we know the school that they've come from, we get back to you and explain it's been published and send a certificate to the school. So at Enrich, collaboration is a really key part of the way that we work. And to access the resources that we've been looking at today, you can either go straight to our secondary curriculum area here. In the secondary curriculum area, you can just click on resources and you will find some there that are collaborative. If you really just want to focus, maybe your school's got a focus on collaboration, then please go to Habits of Mind, where we've collected them together by strand. Alternatively, if you've got year 7s and you'd like to look at the Solving Together collection, then type in Solving Together here and you will be able to access the resources. Now, there's a lot of things that I've shared on here. I've talked about other projects that we've done. If you'd like to know more about Enrich and keep in touch with what we're doing, one obvious way is by following us on Twitter. And we'll be reminding you when there's new features and when there's live problems. What we also do is send out a newsletter. So if you go on here in the search box and type in newsletter, it will take you to a page where you can register. And in our newsletter, we'll also tell you about our webinars. We try to do a teacher webinar every half term. Our student webinars, they're often coming up. We do them as part of Maths Week England, but also other events. So you'll get the heads up on those as well. And anything else that's interesting that we'll be excited to share with you. So what I'm hoping there is being able to give you an overview about what it is that we do at Enrich. Perhaps some of the insights that I wish I'd known when I was teaching, such as about using the solutions and the teaching notes, some of the research that we've been doing and how that can be used to improve our teaching in the classroom. If there's anything that you'd like to follow up from today, please do get in touch with me. You can email me at Enrich. The contact details are on our homepage, and I'm sure that Colin's got them too. So I'd just like to say thank you very much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed the activities and maybe continue enjoying them later as well today. And I hope to speak to you and meet up with you very soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.